really wasn't this guy,
No,
you know,
it's kind of
a few years back.
yeah. He doesn't. Somebody I heard somebody say he doesn't really have a platform. He's
Yeah.
very malleable to whatever. He's a businessman.
Well, and what he did, he's very good at marketing,
Yeah.
and because he's a con artist,
Oh.
he's a street con artist. But what he did is he test the pulse to see what area he could run in, and he found this groundswell and said, "Hey, I'll just go there because I have some support in this particular area." But anybody that knew Trump, 7, 8 years ago, would tell you he might have been, because him and Chuck Schumer used to be very good friends. I mean, Hillary Clinton, they're actually very good friends. So the things that he was saying on the campaign trail, saying the Clintons knew it wasn't true, but he was doing this all for show to act like I hate her so much and I want to put her in jail. And him and Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have been great friends for years. He supported her,
I know.
you know.
And it just occurred to me like the other day. I thought, I guess it's just okay. I guess it's because people watch The Apprentice and they were like, "Hey, that would be
Yeah.
fun." I guess.
Mhm.
I don't know. Okay.
They'll wake up soon.
Well,
7-year-olds with no emotional maturity, though.
Oh, right, yeah.
well, and I think a lot of people didn't. They just had no clue. But there's no way to figure it out. It's just got. I hate to say it. Well, I was no big Hillary Clinton fan either.
But that's kind of what the two choices they had.
Yeah.
So some people, the reason there's a lot of people that's marching that were Trump, that voted for Trump, they weren't really Trump supporters. They just said, I don't want Hillary. So I got to vote one of the two, or maybe a third party candidate. So some people voted for Trump, but they weren't, just strongly in his camp. And so now, if some things, don't go according to the way they want them to go, it's easy for them to say, well, I voted for him, but I didn't know he was going to do this. So that's what you're seeing. He really had like a strong, maybe 30%, backing. And then you had a few people that said, well, 20% that said, well, we'll vote for him because we don't want Hillary Clinton. And so that might have been just enough to put him over the top. But some people really, you had a lot of Republicans say, we'll just hold our nose and pull the lever,
Yeah, that's right. Well, what I kind of wanted to do, I think, with and wherever Prince Rivers comes in here or whoever, the various folks, because when I went on the tour with you, I got to understand a little bit more what this meant about the end, bringing an end to Reconstruction.
Reconstruction, yeah.
Whether Reconstruction was working or not, it was working to some degree. And so it's very interesting to me also that Prince Rivers was in Beaufort.
Right.
When they left there,
Middleton Stewart.
Came to Edgefield.
Right.
With him. He stole the horse, went back, and possibly, I was just reading, possibly he got his wife and 2 children out too, but I don't know how he did that.
Yeah, I really hadn't. I didn't hear whether, because see, I'm not clear whether the wife and children went. See, I hadn't really seen whether he was the carriage driver. I know he had to drive, the Stewart family, and I didn't read anything about whether his family went too or he just had to drive, because the family could have still been in Beaufort. So when I don't see anything definitive, I generally just kind of leave that part out of the story because I don't know whether they went or he left them. Because, if he left them, that could have been a driving force for even going back.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first time I had read about that. But as you read through a lot of one source said that he went to North Carolina, but he did come to Edgefield. I'd be so interested to know if it was somewhere around Hamburg. Or if it was.
I was thinking it was closer to Edgefield, the town of Edgefield, more so than Edgefield County, because I know there's a Middleton family, that in Edgefield, because he was coming because he had family, relatives in Edgefield. And so I'm thinking that Middleton was connected, because I know the Middletons in the Low Country are connected with the same Middletons that were up in the Clarks Hill area. So,
okay,
yeah.
So be that on that other side of Clark. So be on the other side.
Yeah, well, there was a Middleton plantation right near Clarks Hill, right near where the dam is.
Okay, well that's interesting because I think that might have been the first time. Maybe not if he drove him back and forth, but that might have been the first time that he knew of Hamburg because I I don't know how he got from how he chose Hamburg.
Well, this is what I found, and I believe this may be why he came back. Now, he did get the experience of coming to Edgefield after the Civil War, and they were still in the militia, hadn't mustered out yet. They were actually stationed in Hamburg. This is 1865, and so he spent some time in Hamburg after the war, and then they went back to muster out of the military because they went to the site on James Island, Fort Wagner, where the movie Glory, where the Massachusetts 54th, had this mass burial. So that USCT 33rd that he was a part of, they mustered out at their gravesite. And when they mustered out, he came back to Hamburg. But he had spent a little time in Hamburg with his militia unit.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
great. That's really great. And so what I love about Prince Rivers is he's like, where's Waldo? He's like in the middle of
Yeah, he is.
of this.
From the beginning of we're about to do some things on Reconstruction, because it's now been, it's a focus, and they want to do a national monument. So I'm talking to the park guys in Beaufort to tie in the Hamburg thing. And Prince Rivers is the tying link because he was there at the beginning of Reconstruction in Beaufort, and he's there at the end of Reconstruction with the Hamburg massacre. So he's this kind of, and with the politics and everything, he's kind of, wherever something's going on in Reconstruction, Prince Rivers is kind of in the middle of it.
And he's this dashing, handsome, brilliant guy who can read and write,
Yeah.
and and so that's. I was just saying, if there's ever a poster child of what was possible, he was there, and then the failed Reconstruction, because I just today read that he finished out his life working at the Highland Park.
Yeah, he was right in Aiken, yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
Right over it was right there at the golf course. So
Right.
it's at Park and Hain.
Yeah.
Right there is where it was, and so he.
Because what he did is after the Hamburg massacre, it was dangerous for him to stay in Hamburg. It was Aiken was a lot more liberal, acceptable to certain things, so it was safer to live in Aiken. So he moved from Hamburg to Aiken, and he is a member of the Cumberland AME Church when he was in Aiken. He was in Providence when he was in Hamburg. And so he just basically tried to kind of keep his head down and, live out the remainder of his life working at the Highland and going to the Cumberland Church.
Oh, wow. Well, I've read that both of his children had preceded him in death, which is also.
I've been, see, a lot of Prince Rivers after, even with the Highland thing, there are these little pop-up stories. And a lot of times, they may touch back on what his previous life was. But, it seems to just kind of, he pops up a lot, but you don't see a lot about the family.
Yeah. Well, I would like, one of my dreams now is to make Prince Rivers as famous as Harriet Tubman.
Well, yeah, I'd like to do some things with Prince Rivers, especially so he can be nationally known.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
and he had to know Harriet, so he came into.
Well, they met down in Beaufort, because Harriet was in Beaufort at their camp. So Harriet was there. The South Carolina first, volunteers were, the first military unit, African American military unit before the Massachusetts 54th. And there was a lot of their successful missions that kind of, made Lincoln feel more at ease about, because this is going to be an experiment. Will former slaves fight? Because they're coming out of a system where they were more docile. It was almost a dominating system. So will they be able to turn around and look at those same people that controlled their life and say, I'm going to go in? So these missions that the South Carolina 1st and 2nd had around Florida and Georgia, successful missions. And the reports that went back to Lincoln, they said, hey, this is glowing. We see that this will work now. But Harriet Tubman was down in Beaufort with the South Carolina first and second. So yeah, they definitely knew each other.
I wish we had somebody that had written. Higginson didn't write about that. Nobody wrote about. Well, maybe did
I'm
Susie
doing it
King?
now.
Oh, you're doing it now.
Yeah, but
Did Susie King? Well,
it's scattered. Some of it is newspaper reports. Higginson did some, because nothing is necessarily in that his book Life in the Black Regiment, but he had written some other things, and so there are these pieces about Harriet Tubman, and when you pull it together, you get a fuller picture. What was interesting is people really didn't know how Harriet Tubman looked. They knew the legend of her with the Underground Railroad, and there were all these wanted posters out for her. But a lot of people, the people in the North that lived around her, they knew how she looked, and the people in the South and around the rest of the country didn't know how she looked. They didn't have a picture on the poster. And so when she came to Beaufort,